I'm Deepanshu Gupta, and I'm here to talk to you about App Engine. I, Hi, is it audible now? Yeah, so I'm going to talk to you about App Engine. It is Google's platform as a service offering. So App Engine has nothing to do with Google Play and stuff like that, as somebody just pointed out to me that some of you might be confused that App Engine, Google Play, it has nothing to do with that. So App Engine helps you in developing and hosting web applications on Google managed data centers. So what this means and the advantage here would be that, as you can see, scaling of your application would be pretty easy. You don't have to worry about any of the configuration of your servers and managing the load, adding new servers as the load increase, sharding of data if your database server data exceeds the capacity of the database server and stuff like that. We take care of all these mundane tasks for you. You concentrate on the core business logic of your app. So this is going to be the agenda for the day. I would talk about App Engine, its goals, what are the goals that were kept in mind while creating App Engine, how easy scaling would be, and then there are a bunch of storage solutions for you, HRD, Cloud SQL, and now we recently introduced Cloud Endpoints. So I will talk about what Cloud Endpoints is, a demo about it, and then the questions. So forgive me, this slide is about a year old. The numbers today are even more phenomenal. 4 years ago, App Engine launched with a surprisingly small set of features, but we've seen a great amount of traction, and currently there are over 1 million apps. That's about more than 3 times the increase from last year. And the hits today, there are 7.5 billion hits per day on App Engine applications. So that translates to about 225 billion hits per month if you want to compare it with this. Again, more than 100% increase. These are some of the customers of App Engine. Many of the mobile and social startups use App Engine as a backend for their applications. I would talk to you more about how easy it is to use App Engine as a backend for your mobile applications. Again, Cloud Endpoints would help a lot in that. So the goals for App Engine. I'm sorry. Yeah. So the goals are the App Engine. Any application you write on App Engine should be very easy to write. It should be simple to scale and trivial to manage. 3 very simple goals. Easy to write. We provide familiar development environments like Python and Java. We also have support for Go runtime. We are adding new languages slowly. As I said, App Engine is pretty new. It takes a lot to add a new language to it. So please be supportive. Yeah, so PHP is definitely on the plate. We are working towards it. It's one of the top priorities. But as I said, we don't have a fixed timeline or anything as of now that I can give you that, okay, probably PHP would be ready by this.
Is there any developer involvement that is involved in spreading it across other environments? Like, if I'm interested in doing this kind of extension, say, is it possible to do that? Is it open for other developers? Like the App Engine code, is it open for developers to extend it by themselves?
So App Engine is basically providing you access to Google managed data centers, right? So obviously App Engine SDK cannot be available for others to extend. What somebody can do is provide some libraries or stuff so that you can use them with the App Engine SDK for us.
So when we're looking at PHP ROR kind of extension, we have to wait for you to do it anyway.
Yeah, so we don't have, even in Python and Java, we don't support all libraries, but how this works is that we whitelist libraries, and we are doing it more and more. Even when the support for PHP comes, then we would look at the needs of all the customers, the applications that are running, what do they need most, and that is how we prioritize our features. And based on that, we would add support for all the libraries and stuff.
Excuse me. Here, does it mean that the App Engine will be here, this side? Does it mean that the App Engine, whatever application I develop using the App Engine, will be working with only in the Google server, or can I take it into my location, my server, something like that?
That's an excellent question. So currently how this works is that any application you write on App Engine will work only on App Engine, because there are some of the libraries and stuff that are available specifically for App Engine. What we are working on currently is something called portability mode or something, in which we would let you know that, okay, these are the libraries, if you use them, then your code won't be portable. We are working on it.
So as of now, whatever I'm going to use the libraries of App Engine will be working with only in the Google Cloud.
Yeah.
I cannot take it out and run it.
That is one of the restrictions of App Engine, but we are working on it.
Okay, thank you.
So, what advantage App Engine gives me if I'm going to develop my own vanilla application and host it on any general cloud site? Okay, I can always get the performance, I can always get the provisioned hardware or software. Okay, in this one, how does App Engine gives me an advantage, or Google App Cloud will give me an advantage? Because I already see we are restricted in the development, because we have been provided with only Google SDK, and there won't be a lot of features. So what does it gives me an advantage over the normal vanilla product?
So if you do not use cloud, then obviously you have to invest a lot.
No, I will go for a cloud which can be rendered in the same, it would be a less cost. I can just host it on a cloud this one, okay, with basically based on my app, whatever size and other things. That's how it works. And a lot of things in the market today where I can just host it, okay, and pay for use based on the timings and other things, correct?
Yes, so the primary reason why App Engine is beneficial here is because your applications are easy to write. You do not, if you use, for example, infrastructure as a service of any other cloud vendor, you would actually have to configure all the servers which they provide. You would have to manage them, and we take all of that away from you. You just have to write a simple application and it will just work magically. Did I answer your question?
Partially, because see the point there is always if I'm going to be limited with features, okay, fine, I have to weigh between actually using a complete SDK and App Engine versus hosting in land. Today, pay for use servers actually configure you everything. They give you provisioning, they give you cloud, they give you on-demand increase of the load and other things.
So that is, they are giving you on-demand increase of the load. You don't have to take care of that in App Engine. If your load increases, we will automatically add new servers.
No, anyway, that would be charged up later, correct? From
Yeah.
Google. So that's what they are also doing. The point is about the, application which I am going to use, the features I am going to give. Whereas the features is restricted here. So that is where it will come down.
I agree that the features are a bit restricted and we are working on it, adding new features So currently App Engine follows a 4-week release cycle. So every 4 weeks we release a new App Engine SDK with updated set of features. So we are working at a very fast pace, and as you saw, the traction for App Engine is tremendous. There are over 1 million active applications today.
No, actually, that would again be another concern, because we are going to keep changing the SDK. My compatibility issues, and actually I need to keep updating onto the latest SDK my code would be the other questions. Because
So the SDKs currently are backwards compatible.
Okay.
So if your application is written on a backwards SDK, you don't have to update your SDK just to upload it to App Engine. You can upload it even then, but the newer SDK would provide you with a bigger set of features. So if you update your App Engine, you would App Engine SDK, you would get, okay, these are the new set of features. If you want to use them, well and good.
I think I'll come back to you later stage of this one.
Exactly. Thanks a lot.
Sir. Here.
I guess we would take all the questions after the presentations. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, so as I was saying, the applications are easy to write using familiar development environments like Python and Java. We also have excellent tooling. Google plugin for Eclipse provides you with very simple shortcuts, if I may, to upload your application to App Engine, configure it, and stuff. So now we come to the scaling aspect. In a traditional two-tier architecture, you have an application server and a database server. The application server would serve as a front end to your application, will do all the computation and stuff, and the database will store all the data. Here, when installing and configuring it, you would have to install the OS and all the server applications. Then you would have to configure them, deploy your application to it, and then add monitoring softwares. If something fails, you have to send out the patches for them. It's visible. So, and then send out the patches to them. So, all in all, a lot of things to do. And if the load increases, either you can optimize your application, but there's as much you can do. You can either go for vertical scaling, in which you upgrade your servers, but again there is a limitation over there. So in the end you would have to go for horizontal scaling, which essentially means that you would have to add more servers. Adding more servers implies adding a load balancer. Adding a load balancer then implies that if you have a session, you would have to either manage it somehow that the same request go to the same server, or have replication of the session to all of those servers. And if you have to add the second database server, then you have to take care of things like sharding and stuff. So all in all, scaling is a lot of pain. There are multiple points of failures resulting in downtime. So with App Engine, you don't have to worry about any of this. We will take care of all of this for you. You just have to deploy your application. That is one thing that you have to do. As if we go back this, install, configure, monitor, patch, we do everything for you. So now the third goal, that your application should be trivial to manage. We have an excellent console for administrating and monitoring your application. It has stuff and metrics like how many instances of your application are running, what is the current traffic that you are getting, what is the amount of data that your application has stored, and stuff like that. With App Engine, it's extremely reliable. For all the build applications, we provide a 99.95% uptime SLA. And if you run into any sort of trouble, we have paid operational support for you. And as I earlier said, with monthly App Engine SDK releases, we are adding new features at a tremendous pace. So now we come to the choice of storage. We essentially provide these three choices of storage. One is HRD. It is a highly scalable NoSQL object store. There's Cloud SQL, which is exactly like MySQL on the cloud. And then there is cloud storage for files on the cloud which do not often change. So HRD, highly scalable, NoSQL, object store. Here the data is stored in the form of entities, which are essentially a Java bean, plain old Java objects. And so each entity would have an ID and a kind. The kind would be something like the class that you have, and for each class there would be a kind, and ID would be the unique value with which you access the entity. So it is highly scalable and based on Google's internal big table. This big table is what we use internally for most of our data storage. And HRD is highly available because of synchronous replication across multiple data centers. So with this, the downtime is almost zero. And we have a powerful query engine.
Excuse me, here, this side.
Yeah.
Will you be talking about big table with detail or just your
Actually, I don't think I can talk about big table a lot here. You can probably
No,
take this offline.
as you said, you are using internally big table in every aspect. We would like to know more about big table, how you are internally using at least one example, so that it will be helping us to understand how this can be featured in our development.
So internally, we have a bunch of wrappers over big table to provide.
Just one example. Just one example. It will give an eye opener to.
I would like to take this offline and.
Sure.
Thank you. So the second option is Cloud SQL. As I said, it's exactly like MySQL on the cloud. You don't have to worry about configuring it, getting it to work with App Engine and stuff like that. It has a standard JDBC interface, Java database connectivity, just like any MySQL server would have. And we provide synchronous replication to multiple data centers even with Cloud SQL. So less downtime. Pardon?
How many databases can one app use?
I'm not really sure, but I think it's 10. And with Google plugin for Eclipse, web and Cloud SQL, you can use these Eclipse DTP plugin, the database plugin, and you can execute Cloud SQL queries right from Eclipse.
One question about App Engine. Here.
I can't see because of the light straight in my eye, so
Here.
you can just go ahead.
See, 2 years before, my friend is using App Engine for website business, domain business registration. He is using mail IDs, 50 mail IDs. Right now, the mail IDs count is only 10. Whether now I am using that, there is only 10 it is available. Right now, that the same free version, my friend he is using 50. Why this variation? It is.
I didn't get the question exactly.
App Engine mail IDs count, numbers of mail ID counts in free version.
Right.
Right now it is available only for 10 mail IDs for each single domain for free registration. That the same 2 years to 3 years back, it is available for 50 mail IDs.
That would
For
be
single domain for free registration.
Yeah, I get that.
Still the free registration people using 50 mail IDs, but new registered people only using 10 only. It is available.
That
Why
would-
you are not providing that same?
That would actually be a pricing issue and stuff. So,
Sir, it is not Google App Engine. It is Google Apps,
Yeah.
not related to Google App Engine.
and so this is Cloud Endpoints, and we have introduced this recently in App Engine SDK 1.7, which is currently the latest SDK. It is only available for trusted testers and not available in general. But I would urge any of you who wants to use this to sign up for the trusted tester program. The URL would be on the next slide. So what Cloud Endpoints is basically it makes it easy for you to provide API access for your application. It is a REST-based API. So if your application is hosted on App Engine and you want to access it from Android, iOS or the web, all these three clients or probably any other client that can call any REST-based API can call into your application and perform maybe simple operations like create, read, update, which I would be demonstrating. And you can also have any other complex action that you can customize. It's a really great tool. I urge you to try it out and sign up for the Trusted Tester program. With this, all your business logic can be concentrated on App Engine, and all the iOS, Android, and each of these applications just call into this, and very easy. And you can share your application state across devices. What this means is, for example, you are building a game on Android. Let's say Angry Birds. And you are playing it on your cell phone, you reach a particular level, you go back home, you pick up your tablet, and you find that the scope, you haven't unlocked the further levels because you haven't played it on that. With sharing your state across devices, what you can do is you can port this information from one Android device to the other Android device, even the web or iOS. And using Google Cloud Messaging, this was recently announced at I/O, another new thing. So using this, you can actually push notifications to all of the other devices that have been registered that something new is available. Please ping me and get the latest data. Yeah. Pardon? No. Application state across devices from one Android to another Android.
Because you have put iOS, that's why I'm
Yeah, so you can actually share your state across iOS also, but you would have to write a bit of more code. Using Cloud Endpoints, as I said, you can upload that state to App Engine, and on iOS, you can download that from iOS. So using another API call to App Engine, you would say, okay, give me the latest state.
No, but what will be your API call to iOS?
No, iOS will call to this App Engine. And we don't have notifications to App Engine, notifications to iOS. Google Cloud Messaging is for Android. So if there is an iOS device, it would probably have to poll App Engine every once in a while that is something new available. This is currently a restriction. So I guess we would, and this is more so because of Apple not exposing some of the APIs. It wants people to use iCloud. So as in things develop, we would probably have some workaround for that.
I have one more question. You had a new release, I'm not sure what it's called. It's called Google Compute, right?
Yes.
So how does this scale with the App Engine?
I can talk about Google Compute later on.
Because this is very closely linked, right? That's why I'm asking. Because I see Google Compute as a competitor
Yeah.
to AWS.
No, the Compute Engine actually works with this.
With this.
Yeah. So,
Hello?
yes? Yeah.
See, if I write an application and host it on the cloud, does this application allowed to call outside to any other application with any other protocol or any other port, or it's restricted?
So again, you would have to make an API call.
No, I'll assume that there is another HTTP or even a REST API, okay, which it's going to call to some other application, okay, within the Google Cloud, because this might be hosted on some other, and you are saying that its Google Cloud is synced across, correct?
Right.
Okay, so assuming that I make a call out, okay, it might be working from one location, say for example India, that application itself, say I'm going to call IRCTC, for
Okay.
example. Okay, it might work from India, but if it's going to be synchronized and somebody is actually using my application in US, okay, and they might be getting into nearest local cloud for this particular application.
Yeah, so App Engine's data centers are currently in US and Europe. They are not in India, unfortunately.
So what happens to my application? How that will be?
So your application would actually be hosted in US as of now. There won't be any call from India. Any call that the application makes would be made from the US data centers.
No, that will work because I don't have any knowledge where it's going to be hosted.
So
yeah, when I'm developing, I'll be developing in the sense, okay, I'm going to call IRCs through some other.
Right. So I'm telling you, your application will be hosted in US.
No, that is fine. But I'm trying to understand how it will going to begin. If it's going to, if this call is going to fail, or how it's going to begin if this call is going to take time.
You have, if you call something, you would have to wait for it to respond, right?
Yeah, correct. So it will take some time, correct? So because it's a cloud environment, okay, how this will begin because it might get a load on to your Google. So you understand, correct?
So there is a timeout that you can set that, okay, I will wait only for this much time. If the response doesn't come, I would say that not available.
So that's
Service
part
not
of
available.
your SDK itself.
No, you would have to set the timeout for the call, right?
No, I agree. See, if in a standard API, for example, HTTP, in a JDK, and from 6, not even from 5, from 6, you can set up HTTP time, or else it won't time out any request. It will be hanging. Normally, if you see a thread and
No, so web app engine, every call has a 30-second limit.
okay,
So you have to return within that 30 second.
okay,
And if you have some computation that has to exceed this particular time limit, then you use something called backends on App Engine. So you send your task to the backend, and there it will wait for a longer time and then return to the normal front end. So any call that comes to App Engine cannot take more than 30 seconds. Yeah, so that is what I am going to demonstrate in this Cloud Endpoint, that how easy it is for you to expose an API that you create. So in this, basically I would focus more on CRUD operations, essentially just to list the applications and insert, but you can also delete and stuff, which I won't be demonstrating. And actually the time for the presentation had been cut down from 1 hour to 45 minutes, and I don't have a lot of time, so let me get to the demo.
Sir, here.
Yeah.
Suppose I am developing I already have a Python app which imports some external libraries. Whether it will be possible in App Engine?
Currently, as I said earlier, that we whitelist libraries. So if those external libraries are actually whitelisted, then you would be able to use them. Otherwise, you would probably have to wait, send out a request that, okay, this is the library that I am using, and I cannot use any other library, so can you please whitelist, and then they would go through a procedure and then whitelist.
The list is taken from the Python pip library, right?
Pardon?
Python pip library, right? From the Python website, right?
Right.
So other manually other libraries are not available.
I don't know about individual libraries that are currently available and not available. So I never used App Engine with Python. I always used it with Java. So I can probably sit with you and check it out. Okay. So I'll move on to a demo. It would be a task application for Android, and I would create a backend for this on App Engine and show it to you how easy it is. So initially I go to the APIs console. It's simple code.google.com/apis/console, and in that I go here and create an application. I'm not going to create it now, I've already created it, a GDays demo. Then I go to the services tab. And hope for it to load. I enable Google Cloud Messaging for Android. As you can see, I've already turned it on. Go back to the API's access. So this is an API key that is given to you. It is used to access this project. And I go to the appengine.google.com, create an application there. This is the place that will actually host the application. This API's console is for you to enable API's access, and if your application does not use any of the Google APIs, then you do not need to come here. And this is the place that you need to create your project in. I've already created another application here. It's GDays Endpoints demo. Next, I go to Eclipse. I create an Android application. Let's call it tasks. I'll develop for ice cream sandwich because not many people have Jelly Bean as of now. I just use the defaults everywhere and finish. And then wait for it. It's still creating. Let's wait some more. And wait some more. In the meanwhile, I have some layout already made over here. I would just copy it over. This will actually and refresh this over here. So all I did over here was just added a text box for what task, added a list view to display all the tasks, and a couple of buttons. So if you want to see the code that I just copy pasted, it's a small code which you can actually do via dragging and dropping all these widgets to the screen over here. And then I copied over a text view. This is basically just a place where you can view text, and I need this so that each of these items that you see here, item 1, item 2, all of these would be a text view. So now what I do is go here and generate App Engine backend. This actually requires internet, so I hope it works. It contacts the Google servers and sends out the API, and then it comes back with all the client library. Still doing. Take some time on this slow network connection. Takes a long time on the slow network connection. So if any of you had a question, yeah, I can take a question. Can you speak a bit louder so that people at the back can also hear?
I hope this is whatever you develop is a web-based application, right?
Right. So basically what I'm showing is an Android application that creates an App Engine backend and uses it to store its data. For example, the tasks would be stored on App Engine, then they can be accessed via the web or any other device that you have.
Is there any way to monitor my app?
Monitor what?
Monitor my app.
Application? Yes, as I said that the appengine.google.com, it has a dashboard. I'll just show it. So basically this is an application, and this, if I click here, is the dashboard. Currently nobody is using the application obviously. This would show the number of instances, as you can see, billing status, currently what is the load, and other metrics.
Do I get any notifications by SMS or email if the app goes down?
That we don't, nothing of this will go down. We take care of it for you. If anything goes down, we will automatically add a new server and get that back up. You don't have to worry about anything going down.
And how secure is my app if I host it on Google App?
In what sense? Somebody hacking it?
Yeah, security.
Yeah, so as with any cloud solution or anything that is connected to the internet, it cannot be 100% secure. But I assure you that there are millions of applications currently on App Engine. They are there because it is secure. We are not afraid that somebody is going to hack them. Have you used Pulse on Android phones, the news application? So that has its backend on App Engine. There are many of popular applications also that have their app. This is already backup, so that is done. I'll get back to it. So what you can see here is that this is an App Engine backend that is automatically created for you. You don't have to write a bunch of App Engine code if you are an Android developer. Our aim is that you don't have to write any App Engine code, but we would probably keep it at the minimal. And then this creates an entity called device info. All this has a device registration ID, which would actually serve as the ID for this entity. And using this device info, it created an endpoint class for it, created a client library for this, and copied it over to the Android project. So if using this client library, your Android device can register with the App Engine project. So the App Engine application, the Android application will call the App Engine application saying that I want to register for Google Cloud Messaging. And so when you ping any of the devices, this device ping class, if you see, can be used to ping all devices. If you call this function from anywhere within the App Engine code, it will ping all devices with a notification that, okay, something is available. Please come back. And using this message, you can also say that, okay, this is the part of the data store that has been updated, you need to update this, or this is actually the latest value. So now I go back here. I need to copy over a bunch of API key and stuff into the project. This is GCM intent service. This is the class where you would actually say that, okay, this has a function called register. This, here it is, register. When you call this function, you can call this from the main activity itself in your application, and then using this function, your Android application will be registered to the App Engine application. In this device ping, I need to copy paste the API key. And this over here is the project ID that is needed by the Android application. Over here, a bunch of things that you need to do. You can get all of these steps in the docs. I save them. And for the task, I create a new class over here. I'll add this, I'll just copy paste this task application actually. So, and refresh it. So, I didn't do a lot here. I just added an at entity annotation and at ID annotation to the ID. So, this at ID annotation would actually mean that this is the primary key to access this entity. I added the string task itself, generated the getters and setters, and I'm done. So, this is simple Java bean. I go here, Google, generate Cloud Endpoint class. Let's have a look. So what this has is a bunch of functions for get the task if you have an ID, insert the task, remove, and it also has a list all entities. Yeah, list all tasks. So using these functions, if you are developing a web front end, then using these functions you can actually create all of this. And then I go here so that I want to use this task as an entity in my Android application also. So I go to Google, generate Cloud Endpoint Client library, and hope the internet works again. This will create a client library for this task endpoint class and copy it over to the Android application.
Can I have a question? Excuse me. Yeah.
So we don't know actually what those entities are. How do you intend to, what your application logic is? Yeah, so as you see here, this is actually a new application. There's nothing on the App Engine over there.
We're registering the table for the first time using this.
Exactly. So this task would actually be a new table altogether.
Okay. Can we deploy the web app with some third-party libraries, some cache or C3B0 configuration settings? Will it accept? Yeah, it's here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pardon?
So can we have a web app with JPA stuff as you did? So
yeah, so this is actually a JPA interface which we support.
Yeah, I saw. So C3P0 and cache, can I have these sort of third-party libraries? Will it accept?
I don't think that we actually support all those. We support JDO and JPA as of now.
Okay. How about Hibernate?
Hibernate, I'm not really sure about it.
Okay.
Web data store and data nucleus, I think it's supported, but not really sure about it.
Oh, thank you.
Personally, I haven't used it, so.
Adding to that, on the Python end, I think we support a lot of libraries as well. Like for instance, there was a question on whether you can access your files offline. That is your whole website offline. There is a framework called Web2Py for Python, which lets you create something like a tarball and then pushes you to the app engine. So we can use that for using it offline, getting it all done, using a local server, and then push it to the Google app engine.
Yeah, so this Cloud Endpoints is the only thing that actually requires the internet connection. And once you have these client libraries generated, you actually do not need an internet connection. For all the
application locally using my own.
Yeah, so you can actually run the application locally on a local development server. I will demonstrate it once I run it. I will run this App Engine application locally without deploying it, and then the Android emulator will call into that local App Engine server. For that, actually, that reminds me that I actually need to say in this Cloud Endpoint utils that I will use a local App Engine run and not one actually hosted, because if I don't set it to true, it will by default contact the App Engine server. I'm running out of time, so I would actually copy paste a bunch of App Engine code. So these two JSPs, which would give me the front end for my application on App Engine. So this is done, and here I need to create a class called task service, which would actually be calling all this. So I'll show what this task service is. Yeah, so you have to write this task, and the first thing you have to do is create a builder. The builder is essentially helps you to create this endpoint object, which will have stuff like insert. As you can see here, this task endpoint I created using the builder, and then this builder, using this builder I can insert the task, list all the tasks, and have more functions for remove and update. I didn't demonstrate all of them because as you can see I'm already over the time limit. So the one thing that you have to take care of over here is that you cannot call these functions from the UI thread. So you have to call these from the background async task, and you cannot block UI for these network calls in Android. I will also copy paste the main activities. It has some code which I'll just show. The stupid refresh, it doesn't do it automatically. So this is the code I added from here. The first line is register your device, create a new task service, and all I do here is get the so I get this object, this list view, and create an array adapter and stuff, and this is the main function that we are interested in, which will actually refill the list. All this is a very crude application, no checks etc. that I have done, and I just wrote that, okay, create an async task, and in this call the list, get tasks.execute, and once it returns, I just take each and every one of the tasks and list it out. So let me just run this, run as web application. So as you can see out here, this will actually run it locally. So this localhost :8888 is the URL, and I'll just show it to you. No, Google plugin for Eclipse is all that is required. So currently, as you can see, there are no tasks. I can add in tasks. These are the JSP files that I added, small code. So give the presentation, give any ID, submit. Let me list the tasks. So as you can see, a very crude interface, but gives you the idea. This is the ID and this is the task. So now I go back to the Android Eclipse and go to this Android application and run it as an Android application. It would take some time to deploy it to the Android emulator that is running, and I'll show you how that task added via the web interface will get populated over here. Any other questions by the time, because I'm pretty sure.
Is there a web page here? This
yeah.
one. Is there a web page that lists APIs that are currently supported?
So I didn't have time to show the demo. I'm already well past the time, so I can't show that demo as of now. But yes, you can access already existing APIs. So If
Is there a web page where I can check the list of APIs that are supported?
List of?
External APIs which we can use it.
I'm sure there is, but I can probably talk to you after this. Anything else? While we wait for this.
Excuse me. Can I deploy my
Yeah.
Can I deploy my WAR file as an application?
Deploying your WAR file to the App Engine application. So if you want to deploy your WAR file, you will have to use the command line interface. For that, you have to read the App Engine docs. Using Google plugin for Eclipse, you cannot.
Without entry point.
Pardon?
You are telling I need to create an entry point for my
Can you speak a bit louder?
I need to create an entry point for my application, right?
I didn't get this part.
Entry point means create a servlet, like entry point.
Yeah, so all that is configured in App Engine web.xml.
Normal servlet I can deploy, it's possible.
I'll probably take this offline. I'm running out of time, so and this is already up. What? The emulator is not working. Probably have to close the emulator and run it again. So sorry guys, it's taking a bit of time. Once it runs, I can show you how to insert a task here, and this will actually, if I go to this main activity.java, here I've got the button for add task and added a on-click listener. All this does is get the text written in the text field, and whatever task that you have actually written it, just put that as the ID, because I didn't have a lot of time to add another text field to the ID for the ID. So use the same task itself as the ID, and then as you can see over here, do it in background, task service.insert task. And I then execute this async task and wait for it to return. Once it returns, I refill the list again. Ideally, you would not do this way. You would actually insert it offline and take care of the cases when your Android application is offline. But I just went ahead and did anything that was possible for this demo, anything small. Wait for the Android emulator to come up. Very slow. I'm sorry. So anything else that you have? Yes. For batch processing.
Say if I want to build something like a crawler, can you use Google Apps for that kind of applications?
I'm not really sure if it would allow you to do that. I will have to check that up and get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, the app engine is awesome. But the thing is that for free application, you mentioned that there is a 5 million request for free app. So if I put my app in app engine, so if suppose they say that in 10 days my limit is gone, so what happened to my app?
So that then you can activate billing for your application.
Will you have any limit that so that I can tolerate those amount of requests? Because I don't want my application crash after 10 days or stop working after 10 days.
Yeah, so that is what we actually scale it. If there is a higher load to your application, we would add more servers and it will not go down.
But my free limit is gone actually within 10 days.
So that is why activate billing. If your application has this much traffic that is coming to it, that's embarrassing. Let's check the logs. Some file is out of sync. Probably refresh everything and try again. I must have made some error in the code. But essentially this works, so I'm really sorry I'm running out of time and don't have time to actually debug this right now. I must have missed out one of the steps. So if anybody is interested, I can get this working and show it to you offline. So any other questions? Yeah. For private enterprises, as in?
If you want to use the Active Directory in a private enterprise, I don't want to upload it to Google App Engine. So how do you provide
access only to a particular?
Yeah, only to a particular.
So we actually have a project called Cloud Directory that's running.
What is it?
Cloud Directory. I don't know how much it's underway. So I can probably talk to you after this and more about it. So I guess I would just wrap up. Any other questions?